Hello, Calaveras County, and welcome to another episode of Mondo Calaveras. I'm your host, Mike Taylor. Well, we survived a fire season, at least most of a fire season. We got through summertime, now we're coming into fall, and my guest this time around is going to help catch us up on one of our fire districts in the county. My guest is Mike Johnson from the Ebbets Pass Fire Protection District. Mike, thanks for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
You bet. Now, Ebbets Pass Fire District is one of those in the county whose population ebbs and flows like probably none other in the county. How does that come about? Is it all second homeowners or vacationers or?
Well, I'd have to say that it is a destination in their fire district for a lot of recreations that happen on, up in the mountains, such as skiing, such as water sports, such as people that are just looking to get outside and get outdoors and hiking. So it does attract either a full-time person looking to, live, work, and recreate in an area like that. But as well, we seem to attract quite a few people coming into the area and do those things when they have time, such as big holiday weekends. And that really adds to our population. So in that area up there, that's our fire district that covers 225 square miles.
Man.
There's about 8,000 full-time residents in that area, in that 225 square miles. And that number can really skyrocket on a busy weekend to 20, 30,000 people.
My gosh.
Yeah, it's significant. There's a little over 9,000 homes there. And so you can imagine as you start putting that math together, right? That's a pretty achievable number. And when that happens, things can be pretty busy for us in the fire
Things
district.
get very busy for you, and that's actually part of the reason you're here is you guys, the fire district, was successful over the summer and got Measure A passed. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that.
You bet. Now, what I'd like you to do is kind of tell me how you think this happened, how you think you were so successful, because you guys did a lot of pre-planning, didn't you?
Well, I got to tell you that what we did was exactly what we felt like was necessary to get the educational word out as to what Measure A was all about. And if you don't mind, I'll just give you a little bit of background about what Measure A was and essentially meant to us, the fire district. And that is the sustainability of our advanced life support programs. And when I say advanced life support, I'm specifically talking about paramedics on the street, both in a fire engine and in ambulances as well. So it specifically pertains to the ability for those programs that were established in 1998 for the paramedic engine. And again, in 2004, we were fortunate to have the community support to begin an ambulance provision and put up 2 ambulances each and every day with paramedics that provide the transport for whomever may need the service in the area to an emergency facility, which is about 30 miles to 35 miles, depending if it's Mark Twain or going over to Sonora.
Well, that's the thing, is an ambulance, I mean, when the call goes out, they're basically based here in San Andreas, aren't they? So they've got to make the drive up your way, then tend to the patient, and then get down the hill. So Ebbets Pass is the only district in the county that operates its own ambulances, correct?
That is correct. We are the only fire-based ambulance service in the county. It's not uncommon in other places in the state or even in the nation, but what it means for us is that we're starting off in that area, and we have a long transport time to begin with. And when you're talking about the golden hour, and that's kind of the rule of thumb for the medical world, right? Is we want to get anybody that needs that hospital attention to the hospital within that golden hour. And if we're having an ambulance ready to go within in the center of where the calls will potentially come out of up there, it cuts down a lot. Obviously, if you're looking to make a round trip, if you will, it's taking a lot of time. And so the golden hour to respond from the firehouse to the patient, with the patient to the hospital, even on our most efficient days with not inclement weather like snow and ice. I mean, you're right there at that cusp.
You're right on that hour.
It's critical, and just to give you a little bit of insight, is that, out of the, nearly 700 ambulance transports we do a year,
Wow.
about 140 of them are happening simultaneously.
Oh, really?
Right.
Okay.
So
Man.
meaning that 2 ambulances are working, driving patients 140 times out of that 700 times
Wow.
in 1 year. So it would have meant, if Measure A didn't pass, and I really would like to talk about, how fortunate we are with the success of Measure A here in a minute, but without that passing, we would have been forced to brown out or not staff one of those 2 ambulances when staffing was short as of July 1. Thank goodness that is not the case with the passing of Measure A. We are continuing with 2 ambulances each and every day, and we feel like that's the best product we can provide the community up there.
Well, part of what you went out to voters with was, like I said, you basically laid it all out on the table and said, how would you like us to go where?
Right.
Didn't you?
Yeah, that's how we went about it. And it was, honestly, as an organization, we put together a focus group with some of our elected folks and representatives from the different parts of our organization to get our various perspectives to the table internally. And there were, a myriad of ideas, and I can't say there were bad ones, but we did decide as an organization through a focus group that we were going to approach the community in a fashion of situation, in other words, what we were faced with, which was a deficit of $398,000 of operating.
Wow.
And we didn't have any way to make that up. And we had been working hard over the last several years of trimming off any kind of, financial fat, if you will.
Fat.
And,
there hasn't been fat in your business in a long time.
and anywhere we could look, we did. And we brought that whole portfolio to an expanded community group and community focus group, if you will.
Oh, nice.
And in a room about the size of the studio here, and we put together just think tanks and put together various different thoughts and did mathematical pieces as well as to see what folks wanted. Put together essentially a menu for a survey that eventually led to town hall and HOA meetings, and we just kind of hit the road with this essentially a surveyed platform, and got the input from the groups that we did get to survey, and brought it back to our elected body with the data of where everybody felt like the greatest support was.
Well, and I know that during an election, you're actually prohibited from saying, hey, vote yes on A, aren't you?
Right.
As part of the department. So you
bet.
need your board of directors out there kind of shouting from the rooftops. But it sounds like by involving the community from the get-go, you had some buy-in right away.
Right. Well,
and then you had neighbors talking to neighbors who might have been poo-pooing the idea of another darn tax.
Certainly.
And but yet they were able to sort of champion what it was going to do for them.
Well, we put everything on that surveyed menu from do nothing, accept a lower level of service. And that is an option.
Yeah.
And
sure.
and that's just if we don't do it, then this is we
here's
go
what you're
down-
going to get.
Right, a lesser service, and we want people to know that would be the case, and they would have a choice. And we were, so fortunate, so much community support. That was not an option that we had surveyed out that anybody wanted.
Yeah.
And there were other items, such as all the way up to open up a third fire station with full-time personnel.
Wow.
And while there was a lot of support for that, it wasn't at the support level of 66.67%, which is what you need to pass a tax measure. And the one we ended up going with was a sustainability package financially for the ALS programs that we're talking about, plus adding one firefighter paramedic to our staffing each day. So it's three more qualified paramedic firefighters that will be coming to our organization. They're not here yet, but we've been working hard to recruit them.
They're almost there.
Right, and to tell you what's going to happen with those folks is they're going to help the fire engine fight fires more aggressively with that extra help trying to, mitigate and keep fires smaller, right? And that's the biggest threat we all have here. And the other item it's going to do, it's going to automatically be a provision for that paramedic to staff a third ambulance when we have those calls that are unforeseen and the ambulances, 2 ambulances that are staffed each and every day are gone. The third ambulance, we will have that paramedic in place, and we will essentially find an EMT firefighter driver to pair up with them so they can staff that third ambulance.
Will they be able to do that as kind of an on-call basis? I mean, do you have folks, I guess what I'm asking is, do you have folks in your department that actually live there? Because I know in the firefighting community, there's a lot of traveling that goes on.
The majority of our folks actually do live and work at our fire district.
Oh, that's great.
I say the majority, not all.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
There's probably if I'm happen to be there and I'm working, I'm an EMT, and I could in a pinch be that partner for that paramedic for a couple of hours potentially.
Sure.
And of course, there's other people within the district. We do have some volunteers and some other folks that can come in and help out. So, however we can make it happen and provide the highest level to the community and the visitors of Ebbets Pass, that's our goal.
So folks in the Ebbets Pass Fire District know what's coming. What's going to be on their next tax bill?
Okay, so it is a annual property tax line item that you'll see, and it's $134 for the year for an improved property.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So an unimproved property, which would be a vacant lot or whatever size. That it's not specific to that. That's $43. So those are it's a tiered system. So
and those are split between the 2 tax bills over the course of the year.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
So about $75 for a homeowner.
Right. If you looked at it that way, and it's $134. I'm a homeowner. I pay $134, and one real important piece is that back when the programs were started, it was specific to residents of the area. If you had, you were a member, let's say, and affiliated with a property, let's say, and any ambulance ride that you would take with the Ebbets Pass Fire District would be no out-of-pocket expense to the individual.
Okay.
And ambulance rides can be very expensive, especially at the mileage we're talking.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking $4,000 or $5,000, and most insurances aren't 100% cover anything anymore, right?
Yeah.
So even if it's an 80-20, you're on the hook potentially for 20% of a $5,000 bill.
Sure.
That's an unforeseen expense. Well, this program covers that 20%, and of course, to keep the program going, we do collect the insurance payment, but nothing out of pocket.
Oh,
and it's doesn't matter if it's one time, or many times, or no times. And for your family. So that's a nice in return, and it allows us to provide a quick service, no out-of-pocket expense for you and your family, and so it works out really well.
How about the out-of-towners? If they're, heaven forbid, in a car crash and they need that ride down the hill to the hospital.
If you're from out of town, right, you don't get that benefit as far as a no out-of-pocket expense.
Yeah.
Although, let's say maybe you own a second home, or maybe you own something that you're part of this program, then you would be covered.
Yeah. Okay. So that's going to hit tax bills in December and whatever. Is it May?
Yeah.
Always get confused when the second one comes out.
Right.
So they're about to hit the mailbox. Yeah. And so what exactly is this going to give? We've kind of touched around it, but you're going to get an additional staff member.
Right. So what we're going to, just to recap, is we're going to continue to keep those 2 ambulances on each and every day. And so we're covering that financial deficit that was previously there, and we were offsetting that by not doing capital purchasing. We were doing that by, holding off on doing any kind of improvements, things that we needed to do, and we were offsetting that with the district reserves, and that's essentially the savings account, if you will. And that was no longer going to be, that would not sustain the deficit anymore. And that's where we knew that the crossroads was there.
Yeah.
The original mechanics of the original programs were built with a flat structure. So essentially, the dollars we see in 2019 were nearly the exact same as they were in 1998 and 2004.
Oh, wow.
And as you know, not much is the same in our
Costs,
personal
they
lives.
are climbing.
Yes. So 1998 and 2004,
Yeah.
I believe, we were hitting a national price for fuel that was like record breaking, and I look back and it was still significantly lower than what it is now. So just a fuel comparison, or even minimum wage, right?
Yeah.
Minimum wage then versus now. I mean, that's over doubled. And so you just think about those same basic goods. And you know, when we articulated that to our community, not only did they give us support before that, but they also understand. And boy, wouldn't we like to go back and buy a new vehicle for a 1998 price, right?
Yeah.
Or
I was going to
what have you.
say, so how are you doing equipment-wise? Because you talked about adding kind of an on-call third ambulance. Do you have that equipment?
Well, we have equipment we call a reserve ambulance.
Okay.
And frankly, you know,
It's the one that needs a little attention, probably.
Boy, the older, more worn out, and they were all very worn out, to tell you the truth. And we did have to lease an ambulance, which is for a government agency. That's a fancy way of saying we're making payments to pay off an ambulance.
Yeah.
That had to happen. Although with this Measure A and the ability to start putting a capital outlay purchasing back online, you know, you're going to start to see, you know, maybe a new vehicle here and there, and eventually we do need to start replacing our Type 1 fire engines.
Your engines.
And they're four-wheel drive because of the ice and snow in our area.
Yeah.
So there's not a good used market out there for us to pick from.
Okay.
You see where I'm going with that?
Yeah.
And the cost for one of those is about $650,000.
My gosh.
So our newest engine right now is a 1994.
Wow.
So our newest Type 1 engine is a 1994.
Man.
And so we're looking forward a couple of years into that capital outlay process. And we are excited that, you know, those possibilities are coming to us. We were very fortunate, I'll switch gears, you know, just slightly, is that, you know, the Board of Supervisors at the county had given the local fire districts a one-time purchase of $250,000 to buy some capital outlay items from their settlement from the Butte fire. And so we have taken that, and while $250,000 doesn't buy you a $650,000 fire engine, we are purchasing another new ambulance.
Oh, nice.
So that leased one, and then we're going to replace an older ambulance with those funds, as well as a utility or a pickup truck. So
cool.
So that again, it just helps out every little bit, and it's doing the right thing. It's getting people to hospitals, and it's getting firefighters even to fire grounds. You don't realize it, but in our area, the firefighters are the ambulance attendants.
Yep.
So when the ambulance shows up in Ebbets Pass, it's got firefighters, and they get out and they put on their safety equipment, right? And they go to work putting the fire out.
Yeah.
So it's like, doesn't matter how you got there. You're there and you're to do a job. So
that's right.
So we're very, very thankful for that, and we feel like that a lot of our success is hinged around that program.
And the new ambulance, is that brand new?
We did. We
Wow,
had
nice.
We had remounted ambulance boxes. That's a pretty common practice if you have a good ambulance box.
Yeah.
And we had remounted and built ambulances out of old ambulances, and we had no ambulance boxes that were sturdy enough to be remounted. So we had to replace with a new ambulance box, and that ambulance box will continue long past my time at the organization. I'm sure, you know, it'll be remounted again and again.
It's almost kind of like a camper snapping onto the body of it. Granted, it's not a pickup, but that's kind of what's going on here, isn't it?
Well, in the same sentiment too, you know, you got to start off with a good camper, right?
Yeah.
And then, so if you're going to do that, and so that's what we kind of set it up for, and that, you know, through attrition and through the years, we've hopefully helped the future generations with the organization have something that they can work with.
You bet. About how soon before you get the the new one?
Well, it's probably about 240 days out.
Oh, okay.
It takes that long.
Yeah, it does.
And so...
There's only one or two manufacturers in the country, isn't there?
You know, you'd be surprised, but there's one company that we're working with that's they're based out of Washington, so they're at least they're on the West Coast. So that's good, right?
It's close.
That's important.
It won't have all those miles on it when it gets here.
Sure, it's not like just driving down the road to a dealership.
Yeah,
you get one on
true.
the West Coast. That's good.
Yeah, that's good. And then how about the new staff? You have basically three brand new staff members,
Three
right?
brand new folks that are currently in the process of getting cleared to come on board. Yeah. And I'm hoping that we see their shiny faces somewhere in January 1.
Okay.
And we'll start doing their internal training, but they're coming to us fully qualified for the positions. They'll just have to learn how to do it in our environment and with our equipment and our way, and we'll get them trained up, and they'll be on the streets.
So you're through the hiring process. You've got those people basically committed.
We did. You know, and it's interesting you bring that up, is some people would say, boy, you got your tax measure passed at that 66.67%, and it passed at 83.78%.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Once
Congratulations.
again, thanks to our community,
Yeah.
we are overwhelmed with the support and completely humbled. And someone may say, well, now that you've got this, now it's time to, it's all this,
go buy the farm
less strength you don't have to be stressed about this or that, and the actuality is it's not time to relax.
No.
It's not time to sit back. It's time to make good on every single thing that we promise to our community. We promise to the constituents. We have people to bring on. We have people to train. We have equipment to replace. Just a simple thing like heart monitors that you would think is really simple are very expensive, and our old ones are timed out. The end of life has come for them by the manufacturer, and we're forced to replace them. So, I mean, they're $33,000 a piece. And
my gosh!
I make that statement because when it's our time of need, whether it's you or I or a family member or someone we care about, we don't go into a medical facility and say, "Wow, how much does that cost?" Or how much? You just expect it to be there. That it works, and the staff there is qualified and competent and has good bedside manner and takes care of us in our time of need. So all those things are happening. So while you may go, oh, well, they got it made. Well, that's great, but we got a lot of work to do, too. We got a lot of heavy lifting, so we're excited about that.
How many staff do you have?
Right now we have a total of 21 line staff, and I say line staff, those are the people that are working shifts. Those are the people protecting the district right now.
In the trenches, so to speak.
While I'm here with you, they're there, right? And then myself, and we have an administrative assistant, and she really does the lion's share of the administration.
Keeps the paperwork moving so that you're getting paid for everything, right?
She's absolutely brilliant, and she's been there since 1990, and honestly, I will have come way after 1990, and I'll probably be gone, and she'll still be there training the next person.
She's also the one that does those citations when you haven't cleared your lot in the springtime, right?
there is a special person that does our fire prevention program too, and she's been there a long time. And I tell you what, they do a fantastic job. So when you count the 21 line staff, myself, and those two other people, and those are the people that I would say are kind of on the payroll, so to speak. We are also augmented with 6 intern positions. We often look for folks that are coming out of or in the fire academy or looking for a fire service career potentially. And then, of course, we're always recruiting for volunteers. Volunteerism across the board in the fire service at least is down.
Oh, it is.
There's fewer and fewer folks for whatever reason going into volunteering. But I also understand too, a lot of folks are doing multiple jobs even.
That's true.
And things, everywhere. So with that, we're always recruiting. And there's a pitch for volunteerism if anybody's looking to volunteer. So.
And it doesn't mean that you're going to volunteer to go out and put on the heavy coat and put out a fire. There may be other tasks that the district needs help with.
I believe each and every district throughout Calaveras County, I'll go to this extent at least, because I believe this is the case, is that even if you're interested in being at some level an auxiliary member, it's making some sort of contribution, I believe that there's probably a place for that. And now, volunteer firefighters in the truest sense of the word that are volunteering and they're fighting fire, we got a saying in the fire service, there is no volunteer emergencies, right? So you
Yeah.
get that training, you get that level of exposure so you can do that job safely. But I believe that, you know, depending on what you're willing or have the ability to contribute to your community, the fire department's a great place to start if you want to look to volunteer.
And there is a ton of training that is afforded those volunteers.
Yes, it's required. A lot of it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's required for good reason.
Chief, we're down to our last couple minutes, and we mentioned at the beginning that we're coming into fall. Aside from keeping the pine needles out of everywhere
You bet.
in your district, what should folks be on the lookout for to keep themselves safe as we're changing seasons?
Well, as you know, we haven't had much rainfall at this point,
Yeah.
and I'm sure it'll be coming soon. But I notice everybody's cooler nights, they're starting up their wood-burning stove. Make sure you get that chimney clean.
Get that chimney swept.
Yep. Don't want any flue fires. Make sure your spark arrestor's in good shape. And because it's so dry out, just remember that, you know, defensible space just doesn't go away because it's cooler out.
Yeah.
It's still very dry out.
That's right.
And we definitely still are not done with fire season potentially. And knock on wood, I hope we don't see anything, but it could still happen, that's for sure.
One of my favorite questions, and this is because my father was in firefighting. He was with what is now Cal Fire for 34 years. What's the dumbest thing you've seen homeowners do when we get to the point we're lighting the fires in the fireplace and that kind of stuff? What's some of the silliest things you've seen folks do where you just kind of smack your head and pull a Homer Simpson when you walk in the door?
Well, I'd say that, you know, misplacement of maybe hot ash or even charcoal
That's a
from
good point, because you
a
forget
barbecue.
how hot they are.
Well, and you maybe have every good intention, and you misplace them, you know, maybe next to the building or on some sort of flammable material, and
Yeah.
and
The
put it in your
plastic
trash.
bucket is not what they go in.
It is not. Yeah. So be very careful and stay vigilant.
Be ready for that. Well, Chief Mike Johnson, thank you so much for being here from the Ebbets Pass Fire Protection District. I'm going to editorialize for just a second, Mike, and I'm going to tell all of our viewers that regardless of where you live in Calaveras County, your fire protection district needs your help, like Michael said. Training is afforded. You can volunteer and help out in just about any way, but be ready because some of the other fire districts may be coming after some additional funds, just like Ebbets Pass did. So I'm going to say congratulations to the folks in the Ebbets Pass Fire District for supporting your firefighters. The rest of us do too, so when those ballot measures come up, I'm sure we're going to be out there for folks too. So until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us on Mondo Calaveras. I'm Mike Taylor. Enjoy.